This is the largest quilt that I have ever made, and there were some struggles. There were some hard times. I don't want you to just think that like it's all rainbows and butterflies and cute little bunnies and then at the end we get this gorgeous quilt, right? No, it doesn't always work that way. I've been working on this project pretty solidly for the past several weeks, and I finally finished it and I want to share it with you today. Long story short on this quilt, okay? A family member of mine has a vacation rental property and they wanted a quilt to go on the wall, and there was the option to buy a quilt to go on the wall, which I immediately stepped in, vetoed, also proving that I completely did this to myself. So yeah, I volunteered for this project, and very quickly after I volunteered for this project, I realized I didn't quite think this through, but it's going to be amazing. I basically had roughly about 3 weeks to make this quilt. Okay, roughly about 3 weeks, and it originally was about 1 week, and I was granted a little bit of grace, which is still a very tight timeline. Okay, it's a very tight timeline. I came up with the design for this quilt myself. I wanted this quilt to tell a story. Okay, I wanted this to be an interactive art piece, because this isn't a quilt that you throw over the couch and you snuggle up with and its main purpose is to keep you warm, right? This is a wall quilt. This is a piece of art that is going to hang on the wall, and I wanted it to be a conversation piece, okay? As you can tell from the quilt itself, there are no two boots on this quilt that are exactly alike, and that was on purpose, okay? It's a little bit exhausting because there are 20 boots on this quilt. 20. Yeah. And I made them all different. So what I imagine is the people that are going to be viewing this quilt, and like every single boot has a personality. Okay. Every single boot has a personality. So you're going to go up to the quilt and you're going to be like, this one is my favorite. I think it's fun that everybody's going to be able to see themselves in this quilt. So from the very beginning, I started going through my scrap fabric, okay? I started going through the fat quarters that I've collected along the way, and I've just started pulling together as many like Western type, fabrics that I could find, but I wanted them to be modern Western, if that makes sense. I don't want cheesy Western, I want modern Western. So, and by the end of it, I ended up with so many pieces of fabric, because I also went to my quilting girlfriends and I was like, all right, we got to make this happen. Pull out your scrap fabrics. Let's see what we can do. These girls are rock stars, and I'm not going to lie, we also had a sewing day in which everything Kristen was on the sewing machines, and we worked together to assemble these boot blocks and make sure that they were all sewn down. So the boots are not actually pieced. This is a wall hanging quilt, so I chose to do the boots as applique. And I'm gonna get into just a second how I did the applique pieces themselves, because that is a whole nother subject. But the boots themselves are applique, and they have Steam-A-Seam on the back, which is a really good applique product, okay? So it is kind of like a glue. Let's just say it's a glue that you put in between the two pieces of fabric. It's sticky on both sides. You put it in between the fabric, cut it out, and then glue it down with your iron as the heat source to melt that together. And then to make sure that it was nice and tight and never, ever, ever going to come up, I went through and I stitched all the way around with a zigzag stitch in a clear thread. I did a little bit across the base of the sole of the shoe to kind of like anchor that line in there. And I made sure that these boot pieces, they're not going anywhere for a long time. It was a lot of extra work to sew those down, but it came out so lovely. I'm going to step back one step further and tell you about the process of how I actually cut out all of these pieces, because on one side, your head says 20 boots is not that much, but 20 boots times, 20 soles of the shoe times 20 outer shapes of the boot times 20 of the beautiful detailed pieces of the boots times the straight vertical piece times the little decorative piece at the top where you pull your boots up. It's a lot of pieces. It is a lot of pieces that had to be cut out. I borrowed a friend's Cricut machine and I designed a digital file for all of these boot pieces. I based it off of a lot of different inspiration. As you can see right here, some of the files that I saved going, you know, I want something kind of like this. I want to show off a Southern style boot. The artist in me was not willing to give up quality of my boot in exchange for a little bit less time. I spent a lot of time cutting out these pieces. You know, the SVG file that I came out with, I was really, really pleased with. I know those of you who are already thinking, where can I get that file? I want that file. Because of the feedback that I've had while I've been making this quilt, and as I've taken it to the quilt shop to find other fabrics and things that I needed for it, I've decided that I'm gonna go ahead and offer the SVG file. I just want other people who are excited about it and want to attempt to make something like this quilt. I want to offer you the SVG file. So if you're interested in the SVG file and you want to cut out this boot yourself, make sure you check out the link in the description box down below. I just want somebody who wants to make something like this to enjoy it and to have fun with it. Also, if you make something fun with this file, tag me in it on Instagram or something, okay? It was a process. It was a process that required a lot of my attention, and when I tell you I did not work on anything else during this whole process, I'm serious. It was this quilt and this quilt alone, because had I got distracted by anything else, it wouldn't have come together. You know, towards the end of the putting together of the quilt top, I had a brilliant find with some scrap fabric, and I wanted so badly to incorporate some type of just little Western flair, some bling, some jazziness to this quilt, and this metallic fabric was absolutely a golden find, quite literally. And I decided to put this as just a very thin border on the outside of the quilt, and then I added another border on top of that. This little piece of little like magic flair on the outside of the quilt is just enough to give it some Western bling. I didn't have quite enough time, but maybe someday I'll come back and I will add a little bit extra bling to the quilt. But for now, this metallic fabric is just the perfect addition to it. Another thing that I really enjoyed adding to this were some flowers, okay? You know, sometimes boots are for work boots. They are meant to get dirty. They are meant to be out in the fields. And sometimes they're your nice boots that you wear out in a beautiful Friday night out, Saturday night out dancing. You know, you get the fancy boots, you go to the rodeo, that type of outerwear of boots, right? And I was lucky enough that my sewing friend already had all of these flowers cut out. Is this not the most gorgeous bag of like add-ons that you could possibly even dream up? So I got to dig through this and find the perfect ones to go on the boots. And as you can see, it just adds that beautiful Texas wildflower look and feel to each of the boots. And again, makes me question which boot is my favorite, because I'm still not entirely sure. I don't know. There's one thing that I have not quite decided on, and that is a name for this quilt. It needs a name. It needs a name. Yes, I name every single one of my quilts, even if they don't make it in a show or whatever. Most of my quilts don't, because they're just meant for like snuggle up quilts on the couch, and they're just meant to be loved. This one was a really hard one for me. I couldn't quite decide what I wanted to name it. So, being that I have the most amazing resource of quilters in the world right here, you, I would love some feedback on what you think this quilt should be named. If you would just put it in the comment section down below, along with anything else you want to say about the quilt or questions that you have. I answer all of the comments, so I will gladly get back to you. But give me a quick thumbs up, thumbs down on the names that I came up with for this quilt. I know they're kind of cheesy. I can't help it, okay? This quilt was kind of crazy from beginning to end. So let me know which of the names that you decide would be a really good name for this quilt, because I think eventually I may try and enter it into some rodeo competitions or something like that. Or if you have something that I have overlooked entirely, go ahead and put that as, you know, D. Okay, like none of the above. I have another idea. I would love to hear that feedback. The quilting part of this was another part where I just got to let loose and have all creative control on it. And so what I did was each of the boots had their own quilting pattern to it. Okay, I actually quilted around the boots, okay, and then on the sides I got to use a very special quilt pattern that actually has boots in it too. So I'm gonna hush and just let the quilting speak for itself, and yeah, you're gonna enjoy this. Thanks so much for checking out the craziness that has taken over the last few weeks of my life. Yeah. It's going to be a while before I take on another project like this, but I will gladly do it again in the future for such a gorgeous quilting result. And thank you so much for watching. Thanks so much for following along. It's been a great journey. I love sharing these projects with you. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I appreciate you. I love you. I'll see you next week. I'm Kristen with ISeeStarsQuilting.com. Have a great day. Bye. Also, YouTube is pretty cool and it thinks that you would really, really like this next video. So, yeah, don't forget to watch this video too. Click this one. YouTube thinks that you would like it. YouTube's pretty smart, and that's all I got to say. I hope you have a great day.